Thomas, can you hear me all right?
Yeah. Can you hear me all right? Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. I'm gonna wait for people to come in and then get started.
Okay, one sec. Sorry, as soon as I spoke, my headphones disconnected for some reason.
Oh man.
Yes, by the way, I can share my screen.
I think we can go ahead and get started. People can come in as they like. But yeah, once again, thanks all for joining. This has been in the making for a while. I would say our first big recruitment session for the 2025-2026 year. I can start off with just some introductions. I'm Thomas Vero. I am a master's student at Princeton, and I work with superconducting qubits. I'm also the vice president of the Quantum Coalition for the 2025 or 24-25 year. Yeah.
I'll introduce myself, and also Thomas and Katie, please let me know if the background noise gets too bad because I'm away from home at the moment. Um, yeah. My name is Ben McDonough. I graduated last year from Yale. I'm now a rising second year graduate student at CU Boulder. I do work in theory of quantum information dynamics. It's at the interface of condensed matter and quantum information. So always happy to talk about that. I've been involved with the Quantum Coalition since 2020, since late 2020, early 2021, when I helped with the first event we did, which was QC Hack, which we'll talk about in a second. And I've been so happy to see the organization grow since then. I'm also so we'll talk about this in a second. I'm co-chair of the nonprofit board. So whereas Thomas is the co-president of the undergraduate managerial board.
Kaden, I don't think we
Can you
can
hear
hear
him?
you.
I can't hear him. While we're waiting for Caden, I can also pick out some other people in the audience. Jenny, maybe you could introduce yourself.
I think I'm back. But Jenny, you go ahead.
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm Jenny. I'm the treasurer of the current leadership board as well as the nonprofit. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Oh, I'm from UC Berkeley and I study physics and CS, and I'm a rising fourth year looking to do experimental AMO in grad school.
I guess I can go next. My name is Caden Kakmarinsky. I'm a master's student now at Case Western. I did my undergrad in engineering physics and studied quantum optics. Founded the Case Quantum Club, and then kind of got involved with the Quantum Coalition. Helped lead a couple events, and now am the chair of the nonprofit board. Have been mostly focusing on establishing that with Benny and Jen, and kind of some of the background scenes to help support our undergrad board. And we'll be kind of going through our initiatives today. And I guess I work full time like software development, mostly focusing on like generative AI systems. So kind of interested in AI and quantum right now.
Great.
we-
Maybe we could, yeah, here, I can share my screen to get the presentation going if you want.
Sounds good.
Okay, yeah, so just we'll sort of take the slides like we discussed, but feel free to chime in at any point, and then we'll also anybody from the audience is welcome to ask questions. And there will be some time at the end for questions as well. Yeah, all right, without further ado, let's go.
Yeah, I should also mention that the president of the undergrad managerial board is not here today. But he also of course plays a very important role. That's Dmitry Kitrin. He's he's at Duke. But anyways, so yeah, who is the Quantum Coalition? We are a global community slash network of quantum student organizations. This was founded in 2020 between Yale and Stanford to organize the first Quantum Coalition hackathon called the QC Hack 2021. And yeah, our mission is to empower undergrads to shape the future of quantum by lowering barriers to entry, sharing resources, building community, like fostering connections between industry, generally prepare the next quantum workforce and researchers as well. But we are here to support undergrads and support undergrad quantum clubs all across the world. And yeah, again, our goal is to support the scientific community from the ground up. We are a grassroots organization as well. All of us who lead the Quantum Coalition are doing so on a volunteer basis, or at least on the undergrad managerial board. And yeah, we have many goals, including providing resources, again, creating and connecting people with resources such as small grants, which we will talk about a little bit later, industry and academic mentorship opportunities, curated educational materials, and support for education outreach efforts. Also, we've organized a lot of events, which we'll get to, but that's allowed us to foster a well-connected peer network, and we're going to want to continue to foster that. Also, of course, supporting projects and cross-university collaborations. Yeah. So we have a pretty large network at this point, and this list of clubs actually does not include our full reach. But we have, of course, UC Berkeley, Stanford, UCLA, Yale, U Maryland, Duke, representatives from all over. And we're hoping to expand this even further. And we have like organizers from each of these clubs who are helping out the Quantum Coalition. So yeah, we've talked about this a little bit, but of course, for the 2024-2025 managerial board is Dimitri and myself. Also, Mahir. Is Mahir on here?
Yeah, and here's here.
Oh, I'm here.
Yeah,
Hello, everyone.
yeah. There's Mahir, Jenny spoke as well. I don't know if Luke is here, but Luke Curran from media, Santi from Purdue. I don't know if he's here, and Angela from Stanford. Yeah.
Then yeah, I guess I can take this. So then in addition to the undergraduate organizers, this is a big year for the Quantum Coalition because whereas in previous years we've been sort of focused every year on organizing a hackathon or some sort of flagship event, now we're sort of refocusing just on supporting undergraduate quantum computing clubs. And as part of that, we've just incorporated as a nonprofit. So that's really exciting. Actually, we just got our letter back from the IRS, so we are officially a 501c3. So the nonprofit board consists of Caden, who's here, who's the chair, who already gave an introduction. Or I mean, Caden, feel free to jump in if you want to say more about yourself. Myself, Jenny, Nikhil, and Shantanu. And I guess what I want to emphasize about this is that we're all people who have a lot of experience in this field, experience with the Quantum Coalition, and experience leading undergraduate quantum computing clubs. So Caden was the president of the club at Case Western Reserve. He helped either Caden, you can correct me, but either found the club or take it from a very small number of members to like over 300 members. I led the quantum computing club at Yale, YUQC. Jenny Chen was the president, who's here as well, was the president of QCB at Berkeley. Nikhil Harle was the director of QC Hack 2021 with the Quantum Coalition, and also involved in the club at Yale. And then Shantanu Jha was the person who proposed the idea of QC Hack and who is sort of like the original founder of the Quantum Coalition. So everyone here has a lot of experience, and we're like eager to support you.
Yeah, Ben,
Oh,
I'll hop in quick. Yeah, real quick
Sure.
on that last slide. I think sometimes we start this presentation with like kind of a structure slide to say like, okay, what's the nonprofit do? What do the undergrads do? We're kind of the structure of this presentation. We're going to run through our kind of past events and give you some a little bit more history, and then go through kind of our initiatives for what's coming up this year and how you can be involved. And we'll close out with a little bit of deep dive into our structure of what exactly is the nonprofit board doing, what are the undergrad board doing. We're actually also, not to steal the thunder, but announcing an alumni board. So kind of what you can do after being an undergraduate if you want to stay involved. And a lot of the initiatives and things we'll be talking about, like the goal of the Quantum Coalition briefly is kind of we're lowering the barrier of entry into quantum computing, kind of like Thomas talked about, helping with workforce development, but also we're by students for students. So any volunteer member, anyone participating, like your thoughts are going to be considered and valid. And we kind of have this presentation as here's what we think we're thinking about doing. And throughout the year, if you get involved, like you'll have an absolute opportunity to help steer that and do these things. And the nonprofit board is essentially here to just help support you. Ben and Shantanu have been in every event that will be listed, and the rest of us have kind of joined along the way and helped organize. So the real point of the nonprofit board is just to help support the efforts that have already been underway and help provide more structure. But yeah, that's all I have. We can go to the next slide, talk about kind of our partners and support. I think, Ben, you got this.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, happy to take this. So here we want to talk about our main partners. One of this is that if you do, part of this call is get involved with us. We want to get as many people involved as possible. And if you are involved with the Quantum Coalition, then these are the people that we work the most closely with or are planning to work the most closely with over this year. So these are sort of the people you'll be involved with. First is Classic Computing, a quantum computing software company. So I'll talk about a little bit more later. They reached out to us to apply jointly for a workforce development grant so that we could support organizing a larger in-person event. So that's one exciting thing that will be going on. The ITU, so this is the International Telecommunication Union. It's an organization, it's an agency of the UN. This is people we worked closely with over this year to organize FLIC, the Future Leaders in Quantum Hackathon. And that was a really amazing experience. And actually, ITU is going to be launching a new initiative called Quantum for Good this year. The ITU does a lot of things to support emerging technologies. And the Quantum Coalition, as an organization, is going to have a seat on the steering committee, along with other organizations such as IBM Quantum and QEDC. So that's going to be like a really exciting opportunity to be like the voice of students in shaping the direction of this Quantum for Good initiative. Actually, and the FLIC Hackathon was a really cool opportunity. A few of us organizers got to go to Geneva to participate in the AI for Good Summit and launch this initiative. So that's been a lot of fun. And then lastly, the Unitary Foundation, or formerly the Unitary Fund. So we're working with them to launch a pilot program to create project groups across universities and contribute to the open source ecosystem. So these are some of our main partners from this year. All right, so past events. Like I said, in the past, the Quantum Coalition has organized a flagship event every year. And although we're moving away from this model, I thought it might be good to see some of the sponsors that we've worked with and some of the things that we've done in the past. So QC Hack 2021 was our first event. This was co-organized by Yale and Stanford. And it was a week-long virtual boot camp and followed by a 24-hour quantum computing hackathon. So this is our slate of sponsors. We had over 2,000 participants from 80 different countries, and this was partially in response to the pandemic. Lots of people were inside. It was kind of the perfect time for a quantum computing hackathon. Um, it was a really exciting event. We did social events, we did workshops, we did a mentorship coffee hour event where people got to sit down in Zoom rooms with mentors from our sponsors to like provide career advice and support. So then we did this again in 2022, another iteration of QC Hack, which I directed. This was very much in the model of the first event, but we did a lot of other cool things. So one thing I would talk about is a Meet the Professors event. Despite being like famously busy, we found 15 professors from different universities who are willing to hop on Zoom for an hour to sit in small breakout rooms with participants and answer their questions, talk about their work. That was a lot of fun. We also brought on, through our partnership with Qbrade, the Duality Startup Accelerator, and they brought in 6 or 7 quantum computing startup founders to talk about their experience and what their company does and what their day-to-day is like. And that was a lot of fun as well. Then we also reached out to Fermilab and we got a virtual tour of their facilities at the Superconducting Quantum Materials Science Center. So QC Hack 2022, we sort of realized with our, since the participation, as you may have seen, was slightly smaller than QC Hack 2021, we realized that this hackathon model might not be what we're best suited to as an organization because we're run by undergraduates, we're not professionals, we don't have like a ton of money. So the next year we decided to organize SQUID, which was the Symposium on Quantum Undergraduate Inquiry and Discovery. The name could probably soon be workshop more, but it was an undergraduate only mock research conference. And this is actually probably one of my favorites because I think it turned out to be a really cool event. We had 170 people in Discord and 137 participants in the actual conference. We had 2 different tracks. So we had a technical track, which was focused on peer-to-peer teaching, undergraduates talking about their research and teaching other people about what they're doing. And then we also had the educational track, which was an opportunity for people to get together and learn about a topic and then teach other people about it. We also did a virtual career fair over Gather.town. That was a ton of fun, where we had representatives from our sponsors just sit in like little pixelated booths and answer people's questions about careers in quantum. Okay. Then there was QRISE. So in 2024, we did the quantum research and industry skills exchange. This was an event that Caden was actually proposed. He was a participant in SQUID, and then he came to us with this event, and we decided to organize it because we thought it was a great idea. So he directed it. We got 800 different participants. And what we tried to do was stretch out the hackathon model over the course of 6 weeks. And we worked directly with our industry partners to propose research level projects and give them to our participants. So this was a really cool event and especially a good sort of proof of principle that we could collaborate closely with our sponsors to organize these challenges using our expertise in combination with theirs. Caden, was there anything else you wanted to say about this one?
Nope, that's pretty good.
Okay, awesome. I'm trying to get through these fast because it's not really the main point of what we want to say today. So then there was the implementation challenge with Classic. So we work closely with Classic on a lot of things. They actually took inspiration from our QRISE event and wanted to run something similarly on their own. And they asked for our support. So that's how we stay involved with Classic. We promoted the store network. We got students involved in this implementation challenge. And then lastly, the flagship event for last year, which I mentioned briefly, was the Future Leaders in Quantum Hackathon. We organized this in collaboration with the ITU in support of the UN's International Year of Quantum Science and Technology. This was a fun hackathon to organize because we paired our sponsors directly with our member clubs to work together over Zoom over the course of a couple months to design the challenges. So these were challenges that were sort of coming directly from us in collaboration with our sponsors. We also had a large number of workshops before the event. So for I guess a month and a half before the event, we were organizing 16 different workshops that are now available. If you look up AI for Good, Future Leaders in Quantum, maybe Thomas or Caden could post the link there. We have a ton of workshops with cool speakers from all over the world there. Right, and then the winners of this challenge also so we had 4 tracks: education, art, science, and innovation, which was like entrepreneurship and sort of cross-field applications. The winners of each track got a trip to Geneva to attend this AI for Good summit. So that was a lot of fun. All right, teams. So teams, I've been sort of monologuing, but
I can
Caden,
hop
yeah.
in. Yeah. Couple comments on just in general on some of the events that Ben went over, to give some more background into teams. So basically, the coalition kind of started with Ben had mentioned like him and Shantanu were there early with Stanford and Yale with the initial hackathons, and the team kind of grew over the years as they did another hackathon and then came up with Squid, where it was kind of having these undergraduates do a research symposium. And although Ben had mentioned those numbers were lower, the engagement was really high, and that's actually what brought me into being involved with the Quantum Coalition. And it was really awesome, kind of the reception we had there. So then we tried, okay, the thought behind QRise was let's take a hackathon and put it over 6 weeks and see if we can get continued engagement. And there was some pros and cons there. We kind of learned from that event as well. And we've been trying to just basically think uniquely in this space. And like Ben had mentioned, our implementation challenge, multiple industry sponsors kind of wanted to copy the QRise model, and a lot of them have looked at the Squid model. So we've kind of positioned ourselves as thought leaders here, and we want to keep engagement up. And Ben loves to give credit out, so I appreciate mentioning that. I came up with the QRise idea, but our whole team really executed on it. And the nice thing about the Quantum Coalition is if you kind of approach the team with an idea and people have buy-in, we as a group can execute on that. So we want to take that kind of a step further and give as many of you who want the opportunity to lead an effort the chance to do that. So that is really what we're pitching here with teams. So the concept of teams would be we kind of would elect someone as point or kind of a leader of a team. And the Quantum Coalition throughout the years has been a group of 5 to 10 to 15 kind of students working together on one big flagship event. But now we've seen our impact really multiply over connecting people with different efforts we've done more so than just one event. There's a lot of large events. So you'll see throughout the initiatives kind of what we're thinking of how we can increase our impact. But a lot of the following initiatives are really like, hey, this is what we think we should do. And then we want you guys to kind of be able to lead that, put in your thoughts, help lead them or add to them. So that's kind of the scope of what we're going, and hopefully directionally makes sense and gets you guys excited about doing that, and we can kind of appoint leaders to it. And again, the last call out to structure before we go through these is we've previously, for the original events, just kind of had this organizing group who would just organize hackathons. And then QRise was kind of the last year we did that, where it was kind of like, hey, let's work on this as a group. And then this last year was our first year of having an actual board with elected positions with Thomas, Dimitri, Jenny, like everyone we introduced. And we think that introducing that structure has been good, but it would be nice to not only have our board, but also these team leads where we can work on different efforts and kind of have people associated for different roles. So that was, I want to give a decent background of teams. So the first thing, Thomas, if you want to, or Ben, our first thought was, and a little background on this as well, is essentially part of the reason we decided to incorporate as a nonprofit is we wanted to start thinking as an organization, instead of semester by semester, what can we do over the years? And so that's a lot of the thinking we do on the nonprofit board, and that can result in us getting grants. And so what we can get grants, get funding, and like really support more efforts. So the original thought, it kind of happened organically. Classic approached us and said like, hey, you should look at this grant called the NSF Excellent Grant. There's a lot of grants out there. This is just one that caught our attention. And there's a pool of, it's, I don't know if it's $1 million you can get, and they have multiple winners, but some serious amount of money can be awarded with collaborations of other groups, and we fit pretty well into this. And the deadline's in January or February, so early next year. But to write a large grant like this, it would need some effort throughout the fall and organization. So really, we're looking for help organizing and writing this event. With something like this where we could bring in some money, ideally, we would like to hire some grant writers, potentially like contracted grant writers or some more professors with experience to help us lead this, and we'll work with other partners. So this would kind of entail adding in creative thoughts, helping organize this grant writing process, learning about the grant writing process, which a lot of us who consider grad school or research is very useful skill to get reps in, organizing this event, and kind of what the Excellent Grant is open for a lot of different things that we could do. Our thought was if we could get a couple $100,000 instead of running a lean online event like we normally do for our budget never really goes over $10,000, $15,000, so it's not too hard for us to get sponsors. But organizing a super large in-person event is an order of magnitude larger than that. So with a grant, it would be the vision here would be if we did Squid, we could do it again, but in person and fly people out. So that was kind of our initial thinking here with the Excellent Grant. Now, as we've kind of gone through this, some of our other initiatives, which we talked about, could also be associated with grants. So maybe there's some interrelation here. But the real thing from this Excellent Grant is we were thinking about doing an in-person conference, basically Squid in person, and being able to actually give travel grants to different clubs or our members and just meet up in person. And that would be, I guess, the high level of this. Ben or Tom, do you want to add?
Yeah, I think you covered everything. But basically, yeah, we're asking you, like, if this is exciting to you, please apply. We'll talk about elections after we go over these, but we're looking for team leads for this grant writing effort, and we think it's a great opportunity. And this hired auxiliary position is just, since we know it will be more work than one can really handle on just like an undergrad schedule in your free time. The Quantum Coalition is trying to fundraise to hire someone to support with this, so that a team lead will have the support of someone whose job it is to work on this as well.
And yeah, the last thing I'll add on this is a lot of these initiatives are kind of the rest of the board will be able to support, and especially larger things like this, dealing with institutions, multiple industry partners, and funding. Those are initiatives the nonprofit board we would definitely have oversight in and provide support. So that's just an example of our boards will be working together on this initiative. And then Ben, you can cover that. You got the next one.
Sure. Okay. There we go. Yeah. So the next program is the Quantum Ambassadors Program. This is a matching program between quantum computing clubs, the members of our organization, and industry sponsors for a semester of workshops, talks, and projects centered around their technology. And this has come out of our realization in talking with our sponsors that we can sort of connect these two groups of people for something that would benefit both of them. So for you and the members of your club, you get to learn about a new technology, and specifically about the tools that an industry sponsor is using to solve their problems. You can build relationships with them, through these talks, through mentorships. Your club will have a connection with whichever the sponsor is, with Quora, with IBM, with IonQ. And then lastly, cultivating skills for employment opportunities. Sponsors love to hire people who are already sort of familiar with their stack. If you cultivate these skills, they'll be transferable to other quantum industry jobs, and they'll also make you a really competitive applicant if you want to apply to work with a specific sponsor, you or your members. But then the benefit to the industry is that they are able to promote their specific technology to a technically skilled audience, which is us. We become the ambassadors. For instance, if Quera is a neutral atom quantum computing company and they have their own stack that's based around this technology, then with a series of talks and workshops throughout the semester, they can explain their technology, explain why it's the method they're pursuing for quantum computing, and they can teach people how to use their tools. It creates hiring opportunities for them. So a lot of companies are growing right now because there's a lot of investment, and they would like to find people who are interested in doing this kind of work. And then lastly, like I mentioned, they can cultivate students who are already familiar with their stack when they graduate or when they're applying for an internship, so that they could be contribute valuably to the company. Okay, next, Caden, do you want to talk about the open source projects?
Did you want to do this one, then I'll do the next two?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sounds great. This open source project, we've been thinking for a while about how we can really sort of promote like intimate, like cross-university collaborations, get people to know each other and get people really involved with quantum software development. So while we were at the summit in Geneva, we had a conversation with Will Zhang, who's the president of the Unitary Foundation. And he said that, so if you're not familiar with the Unitary Foundation, they are really trying to democratize this quantum computing software with this big open source ecosystem, providing support, providing micro grants to people who run those. So they run this thing called Unitary Hack. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a bounty program. They reach out to people who develop open source quantum software and they say, can you put issues on your GitHub? And we will give you money to give out to people who solve those issues. So in our conversation with Will Zhang, he said, well, we're always looking for people who are interested in working on issues and who are interested in building the open source ecosystem. And we said, well, we're interested in giving people in our network a way to engage with quantum computing and meet other people. And what came out of this was a pilot program to put together open source project groups from across universities to work on open source quantum software in the Unitary Foundation's ecosystem. So essentially what this would involve is we want to create we're targeting like 3 or 4 project groups for this pilot program. The Unitary Foundation is going to provide mentors, and they're going to curate the GitHub repos so that they have a clear set of issues that can be resolved. Some of these issues will be really small entry-level things that just require you to get familiar with the way the code works. Some of them are also really good for learning because they involve writing documentation. And then this will be coupled with support from the repo maintainers. So there will be a way to contact the maintainer and ask questions in case you get stuck. And this will be a great way to like engage your members with some slightly more technical quantum computing projects and to get people to know each other across universities in our network. I guess the last thing I want to say is also in this conversation was a representative at Microsoft, and he was sort of emphasizing like how important this is in their hiring decisions. That if somebody has like resolved a lot of issues in GitHub, that's something you can really hold up and say, oh, I'd be a really valuable addition to the software team. All right, Kaden.
Yeah, thanks. And I would say I think both the initiatives Ben mentioned, and then the next two I'm about to go over, I really kind of view them as we shift away from doing these flagship events. Some things Ben mentioned when he was going through the events is like, we created this many tutorial hours, we gave this many people projects, we were able to connect sponsors, industry with clubs. Really, what we're trying to do here is build more sustainable efforts and not be forced to have to do one weekend of this. Now they're becoming long-running, semester-long efforts of all the great things that we've witnessed from 5 years of doing these events, but being able to kind of regulate them more. So the ambassador process we're still like in Flick, for example, we had schools pair up with sponsors just like we're proposing in the ambassador program, and that was a highlight of the event with multiple of our events. And then the open source project could be part of actually developing. And another thing to keep in mind that I feel is powerful, we've kind of talked about, and we've talked to a lot of different sponsors and the UN about, is quantum computing is very interdisciplinary. And so you'd think we should all have a spot at the table because there's really something to do for everyone. Yet because there's this confusion, I feel like a lot of us may have felt this organizing clubs or trying to get members to come in. It's not clear for if you only know CS, what can you do? If you only have a math background, what can you do? Like Nielsen and Schwang, like the classic quantum textbook. If you don't know linear algebra and quantum computing, it's quite daunting to get into that. So some of these efforts, like this open source project, when we talk to Unitary Foundation, they're interested in how can we get people who have no quantum background or possibly no CS background into these things as people who can help us maintain really the quantum workforce. So our quantum workforce development concerns are, hey, we do, like you'll hear this in quantum computing, it's an engineering problem. Like we need engineers. And one thing as an organization and group we're trying to address is like you can work on quantum and you can be impactful to the field and you don't have to get a PhD and you can do this right away. I think that's a good theme to keep in mind with these projects. So I think the ambassador program, pairing with us essentially making content with these open source projects, paired with the learning resources, which will be our next one. Sorry for jumping back and forth on you, Ben. But these projects kind of go together to create what we felt is like all the positives we've been doing, but over the whole year. And I think we have a thesis here that this would be more impactful for undergrads who every time we do a flagship event, someone has midterms or someone has finals, and that's tough. But putting these on a longer period of time, we're hoping could increase engagement and make this more sustainable. So a learning resources chunk here is we've had a few thoughts on these, and essentially a lot of us as club organizers have done different introductory material. Myself, for instance, I had a quantum optics background, so a lot of my slides and intro material in the qubits, I would show off like interferometers or talk about different optic experiments. So you can kind of approach that with just a basics physics level. We have other organizers and friends of the program who've kind of done more of a math base or an engineering base or purely algorithms. So all these different basically categories of introductory material, we thought, okay, what if we tag these as say like a difficulty? Like this is very CS intensive, but nothing else that high, or this is super introductory. Essentially, we want to create like a tiered ranking system on how hard our content would be, and then create a database of content that you can engage with, and then essentially turn that into like a knowledge graph or a well-organized database that we could hook up to like a chat GPT or some type of AI that can give you a personalized tutoring. There's multiple grants and efforts around right now. We've talked to like the Quantum Economic Development Center, QEDC. They're a very large group and work with actually hundreds of companies trying to do similar efforts. They really want to support this project. I personally really like this one. It's a good intersection between my AI work and quantum interest. So we kind of want to turn this into a project that we can help support clubs. Maybe some of you guys are starting a new club or there are other ones starting where you don't have a resident quantum expert. So this project could really help jumpstart and bootstrap those. So this would be basically our learning resource project, which has some momentum, and this one would kind of be involved with curating information, setting up a database, building out an AI chatbot, those types. This one could particularly be supported by a grant as well. But the main thought here is organizing resources, potentially also creating these resources, and as well, it's not on the slide, but one thing, not only do we want to have resources for learning quantum computing and quantum mechanics, we also want to add resources here to support new clubs. So things like how do you raise funding from your undergraduate club? What do you do if you want to host an event, but you only have a couple members? How do you reach out to the rest of the undergrad student population? Things like those pains we've all felt organizing our own clubs. We want to be able to help provide support there as well. So that kind of falls in this bucket. Maybe it's its own category depending on how many people are interested in working on them. But that would be the learning resources project. And then the next one is a academic calendar or event calendar here. So the thought with this calendar is as we were thinking about, okay, instead of us organizing a flagship event each year and doing a hackathon, hackathons are still great. Attending them is good, but there's a lot of good events going on. Why would we need to organize QC Hack every year when IQuAC saw it at MIT, Y Quantum at Yale now, QHack by Xanadu? There's so many hackathons, but part of the issue is not everyone knows about most of these. I mean, we are pretty plugged into the quantum space, organizing these clubs, and even like me, Ben, and Thomas don't know about probably half the things going on. So, but collectively, we're able to kind of keep track of everything. So our goal here is basically build out a calendar so anyone can check our website and see what's going on in the community. I also have hopes that we could start linking clubs who are geographically close to each other. So we've had groups from I'm in Ohio, so it would be sweet if I could work with like Indiana, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Like we're all close enough. We could do joint events. So a hope here is we could start organizing events where if any of your schools was like, hey, we're organizing this hackathon, let's put it on the calendar, and maybe we tag these like, hey, we have scholarships available to help people travel, or we don't, and like we want to get there. So like local to the community. I know for us at Case Western, there's 5 or 6 schools within an hour of driving distance. So we've done a solid effort over the last year or two of trying to help either get them shuttles or buses to our events. But that really starts with just being aware that these events are going on. So we kind of want to give that impact to all of the clubs and members in our umbrella, as well as just helping us know what large flagship events are out there. So that's kind of why I'd categorize the ambassadors, the open source projects, the learning resources, and the calendar. It's kind of we're taking what we feel is all the upside of the flagship events and turning it into more sustainable efforts. So that would be that. And then that falls into our last initiative that we're talking about, which would be the alumni network. And then I guess Ben and Thomas, you guys want to jump in here first?
Yeah, Thomas is going to be one of the people heading this up. So my understanding is, so maybe he can talk about this.
Yeah, sure. So this Quantum Coalition, again, the managerial board is made up of undergrads, and we are undergrad focused and supporting undergrads because there are a lot of opportunities for grad students. That's something the Princeton Club advisor keeps reminding us. So we are focused on supporting undergrads, meaning, but we don't want to leave the undergrads who have worked with us. So we want to start this alumni network. And I will be part of it because I am no longer an undergrad. And yeah, we have some other people who are graduating who helped with the Quantum Coalition and would likely still want to help out, especially in this like exciting time of just now being a nonprofit and have all these really exciting initiatives. So yeah, we did several parts of this include keeping and centralizing knowledge about internships, jobs, graduate school applications. Like a lot of us in the Quantum Coalition are likely going to work in the quantum industry, and the value of having an industry connection is cannot be understated. We've seen it a lot in a lot of the collaborations that the Quantum Coalition has been able to do, a lot of the collaborations that our Princeton Club has been able to do is solely because we know someone who works in the quantum industry. So definitely valuable to have alumni connected to this and alumni who are likely going to be working with our industry partners. Also, of course, mentorship opportunities. A lot of us now have a lot of experience in quantum, and one of the largest demographics of people in quantum clubs is like freshmen and sophomores who don't know much about quantum at all. But like for instance, I was one of those freshmen, and I've kind of made it through a bit, and I would be able to, mentor in people and help them get started. And yeah, a social event per year and a mailer. And yeah, it's something that's very exciting to me.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. And maybe, Thomas gave this perspective like how important it is to know people in industry, but from my perspective, also like the alumni network will provide an invaluable source of information about applying for grad school, for instance. Like we all know like people like me who are in grad school, we know a bunch of PIs. We can tell people like, what's the DL, who's like taking students, who's good to work with, we like this it kind of creating this network that people can be plugged into is, I think, going to be really valuable for supporting people who want to pursue this in graduate school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something I keep on running in. Oh, sorry, Caden.
go ahead.
But something I keep on running into is that it's a very small quantum world. Like someone in my lab who I thought was interesting, turns out Ben worked with him as well. And then I keep on meeting people at Rigetti who know people who I know. It's like 2 degrees of separation between like everyone, So uh, definitely valuable. Um,
Yeah, I totally agree, Thomas and Ben. And I think I share Ben's perspective, and I think this will be a very, very valuable resource for our group, all of us moving forward. And I worked a couple summers at Argonne National Lab, and one of the things they told us every year, kind of starting the I guess initiation, but like onboarding is like look around you, look at your peers, look at the people in your research lab, and these are the people you're going to be working with in industry for the rest of your career. So it helps to make friends early. And no matter how much people want to admit it or not, like it really matters who you know in this world. And it's a small world. So one thing like we really want to help in this with this effort and what we're doing is building a community of supporting people. And we feel that now that we have the nonprofit board and able to help sustain these efforts, it's really important to us to keep the undergrads in the forefront, to not lose touch. So the undergraduates are in the spotlight here for undergraduates, and this alumni board can kind of serve as as you graduate, you can still stay connected, help foster our connections in industry, help provide mentorship. And essentially, this will serve as like a steering committee. So as the undergrads are organizing event or doing these efforts, you can tap into the resources of us who have done this before and can help provide you guidance as you're the one in the arena. We can help kind of give guidance and coaching and connections. So we're really excited about being able to provide this structure and continually grow our efforts here. And we're hoping you all will be as well. So that'll carry us over into join the Quantum Coalition and really what it means to be a member, how you can join, and a little bit of logistics talk now. Bennett, you can bounce back, I think, to the first one. I'll read through those. So what does it mean to be a member? A lot of the stuff we're working on here, we're kind of workshopping on formalizing. So like previously, we kind of just figured it out. People would kind of join. You'd have our real rules used to be just be an undergraduate club, I guess, recognized by your university. So we've kind of added a couple rules here, pretty much in that spirit, meaning being a university club with undergraduate members, and you're primarily, or at least mostly, focusing on quantum science. So it's one of these groups. We've had a lot of different groups. We've had physics-based groups, computer science-based groups, math or engineering-based groups. So it doesn't have to just be a quantum group, but it has to be a significant effort. We also want to kind of expand to work with other groups. For instance, like we've worked with some mainly computer science groups, but they could be great helpful for these open source projects. But for our actual like steering and organizing committee, a quantum focused group with 3 board members and a club constitution, or I know like my university wants like 5 board members or positions to be recognized. We feel like this will probably be covered with whatever your school needs to be recognized. And then for us as the Quantum Coalition, we'd like a representative participate on one of the teams. So having someone from your club participate in helping us with the efforts we're working on. And usually the best is to appoint a Quantum Coalition liaison. So essentially appoint someone in your club responsible for this. And one of the things we're moving towards is we've used to do like weekly meetings. This is a structure that can kind of be decided by our new board. What we're thinking is the teams could meet weekly or every other week, however you kind of want to set that up. And then we would do group-wide meetings once a month. Is kind of what we're proposing. So your liaison would be responsible for showing up to these group meetings. The exact cadence can be set by the new board and what people agree on, but we're basically thinking this would be once a month. So your liaison will represent your club in when we meet as a group, most likely monthly. So those are kind of that's really all we ask to be included as a member. And if you don't meet these criteria, say you're trying to start an undergraduate club at your university and you're not there yet, we still want to support you. So that's kind of part of our efforts of getting these resources out to help you get that going. So if you're in a spot or know someone in a spot of like, hey, I want to start a club, we want to help you there. It's just not a member yet. And then that's kind of what some of our efforts are working on. And so this kind of moves us forward into benefits, or I think I'm going to skip over benefits.
Yeah, let me just say quickly, really hope that these requirements aren't too onerous. I think it's sort of natural, like, participate in a team, which just means like contribute, to the effort in some way, and that'll be like manageable on top of an academic schedule. It also doesn't need to be just one person contributing to the team. The teams are open to anyone in any of our member clubs. And then these monthly organization-wide meetings are just going to be check-ins. So we all sort of update about the progress of each of the teams and get on the same page about what we're doing. And we'd like to have one club representative at each of those meetings. And so those are sort of hopefully designed to be a very like non-onerous criteria for membership.
Yeah, and then really, if you feel like any of these requirements are confusing or you can't meet them, like just let me or Ben or someone on our team know, and like we'll talk about it. This is kind of just our shot at trying to formalizing some rules so it can be more clear. And then some benefits, kind of like trying to write down what our members get to do. Kind of a lot of the initiatives we just went over, we kind of addressed that, but really it's the access to the network of our alumni network as well as other undergraduate students and support. So that comes along with mentorship, sponsors. We can help support you with events, and like if your club or university is trying to do something, we can provide guidance, and our connections can help with speakers, as well as resources, engagement. Really, just we want to help you do what you do best and run a quantum computing club or any efforts you guys have going on. Support. I think there was a question in the chat. I wanted to address quick. Is the board interest for the undergrad board or the nonprofit board or either? I guess just I'll try to rephrase
Undergrad.
it. Yeah, I would say that the nonprofit board is essentially like kind of set. So we're just kind of setting background initiatives. And then the board that we would elect people to would be our undergrad steering board. So that's kind of like the Quantum Coalition would be the undergrad board, which I'll actually kind of talk. They have elections coming up in September. And then on the slide where it was like what you needed from your club, that board member means like for your university club. So kind of like if your club's recognized, you probably need like right here, this three board members, that means for your university club. So it kind of depends by the university, but you probably are required to have like a president, a vice president, and a secretary, or a president, secretary, or treasurer. So I know that's kind of, we just basically said like that kind of falls into be recognized by your university and have at least three organizing members with your local club. I know that can get a little confusing, but I hope that's more clear.
Yeah, maybe I could jump in and add that the nonprofit board is really not supposed to have a very active role in the day-to-day of this. Like you are leading the organization. The reason why we have the nonprofit board is because in order to have something like, a bank account or like nonprofit status, or to solicit a grant, like it's something that we need a permanent nonprofit entity for. So the nonprofit board is just representing the nonprofit entity, and we're really leaving the like, actually leading this organization up to y'all.
Yep. And yeah, it's like the real goal, I think right now is we're kind of getting established. There's a little bit of the nonprofit board, the alumni board, we're all working together. The goal would be really the undergrads kind of run things, and the nonprofit board is just like if you guys run into problems or you need help managing a relationship with a sponsor or like money related things, that's the real point of the nonprofit board and kind of what Ben and I and Jenny will be focusing on in the future. Um, so back to kind of the undergraduate board, really what we're calling for members and kind of how you guys can all get involved would be the undergraduate board. So elections for this board are happening in the first week of September. So if your club participated in a previous year and is participating in this year, you're eligible to run for a board position, which these also too, as we can kind of figure out if they're all necessary depending on like what we want to do. But our current board positions we have are president, vice president, treasurer, media manager, social chair, industry chair, invited talks director, membership manager, communications manager, graphic design, and tech director. We have a written up document of kind of like what these roles do. Those will kind of be the points of upcoming meetings for the coalition leading in through the month of August into the beginning of September. We'll be basically focused on describing these roles, helping people run for these roles, and electing them. And then our current thoughts will be essentially we have this board of these roles, and then team leaders could be separate. So basically the hope of team leaders would be as you guys kind of go into different groups for these different efforts, there's going to be shared people and resources. So if you're the media manager, that doesn't mean you can't work on the excellent grant and the quantum ambassadors effort, but we just want someone kind of elected to be point so that when updates need to be made or something needs to be done, it's very clear who kind of owns that and can help the team steer that and give updates. That's kind of the goal here.
Yeah, and depending on the interest, you're eligible to run for a board position and a team leader position, or you can hold, or two people can hold each separately. So maybe this is a good time to say there's a link to a form in chat. Maybe Thomas, you could post it again just in case. We have an interest form for this meeting. If you like anything that you've heard or you even think somebody else in your club might be interested, it would be great if you could fill out this form. It'll ask for some contact information. That way, when elections happen, we'll reach out to you over email. We'll let you know they're happening. We'll have descriptions of the board positions. We'll have a form where you can put down your candidacy. So yeah, please, if any of this sounds exciting to you, please go ahead and fill that out so that we can be in touch.
And
Yeah, and then
oh,
yeah, go ahead, Thomas.
oh yeah, just a quick thing. Yeah, if you are already an existing member of the Quantum Coalition, I would ask, could you please fill out the form again, just to have that on record. I know it's a bit weird if you're already an existing member, but people are graduating, and we want to make sure like the membership requirements are filled.
Yeah, I wanted to sit on this slide really quick. Ben, I just want to go over the Ben and Thomas, the one sentence we have with if your club participated in a previous year and participated this year, you're eligible to run. Kind of our thinking behind this, and feel free to hop in. Essentially, I think for our main board positions like president and well, really all the board positions, it would be ideal if you had organizing experience with the Quantum Coalition before. So that was kind of the thought there with our board positions. But if your club is new and you're a new member, you can still fill out the interest form, let us know what you're interested in, and that's kind of where we're having this club liaison, like organizer role. So kind of attend as your club, help out with these efforts, join a team, and kind of the people who have been a part of how we've done this before, it makes more sense to kind of put into a leadership role of these positions. But if you're interested in one, like let us know. Just I would say your default here is if you're interested in something, put it on the form, let us know, and don't worry about that. But I wanted to call that out for clarity.
Yeah, thanks. And we've, gone back and forth about this like team leader positions. We intend to be open to everybody, even if, haven't participated in previous years. So yeah, maybe we'll yeah, we'll if this requirement is onerous, let us know if you're really interested, then maybe we'll keep that in conversation. But yeah, we, like Caden said, we just intend for at least the sort of top positions to be filled by people who have experience organizing with us in the past.
Yeah, and our general rule here is we're just putting these structure and rules and stuff into place for the first time. We just want to be able to enable anyone to do this. And if there's ever something that you feel like doesn't make sense or you're confused on, like let us know. I feel like, first principles and common sense should always be our guiding light. So if there's something we wrote down or said, you're like, I don't know if that makes sense, let us know. We're always happy to talk about it. I feel like that's one of the best parts about the Quantum Coalition is we all want to do the best we can and organize as a group. So yeah, always feel free to let us know if you have questions or concerns.
I think that's a perfect segue into opening the floor for questions and concerns. Yeah, we ran, I think, a little longer than expected, so but we'll try and keep this meeting on time. Yeah, you're free to head out if you need, but we're gonna stop for a few minutes to answer any questions you might have.
Quick thing before we do that, housekeeping before we get any questions. So we recorded this meeting and we will post the slides. We'll send out links in the Slack. I think our plan would be put this video up on YouTube, and we're hoping as we move forward is like we'll have videos like this, like once a quarter, once a semester, where we can kind of say like these are our initiatives, this is what we're doing. In the past, we've had struggles with like if we were doing one event, someone would join, we were kind of in the weeds of that, so it's hard to like catch people up to speed. So we're hoping another artifact of how we're moving the structure out is like it's gonna be a lot easier to onboard and retain additional clubs and members. So that was the goal. We can put out, I guess, where can we find the Slack? We can drop a link to that and email you. Or I'm
Yeah,
not sure
we'll
if
put
we're
it in the
moving to
email and we'll
Discord.
send this out to people who so that yeah, there's going to be a rollout of that. But how about for now, fill out the interest form and you'll get all of the information from this meeting. And yeah, we'll see if we can send it. We'll send it out in an email as well if you heard about this from our mailing list. How does that sound good?
Yeah, I misspoke there. As we're kind of setting up everything, we're trying to figure out if it's Slack or Discord or email. So actually, the best way right now is the interest form and the email. So I want to just clear that up and leave that there. Sorry for muddying those waters. But yeah, Michael, I see you got your question.
Okay,
So feel,
Michael.
yep.
Hi. So I'm the president of the UFT, University of Toronto Quantum Club. Um, so obviously we're Canadian. And me and a bunch of the other Canadian quantum clubs actually have something similar.
So he's cutting out for you too, or is it just me?
Yeah, Michael, you're cutting out.
Requires a whole other, type of one of you guys or an email that we could like join or something.
Michael, we kind of missed most of your question there. You were cutting in and out. Yeah, that's okay. worst case, if you want to type out your question, or we can follow up after. Our general guidance, we're mostly US based, but we're totally open to other countries. So being from Canada is not an issue at all. And I'm sure we can figure something out if that was the premise of the question.
I'll respond to questions in the chat.
Okay. Pranav?
Hey guys, nice to join today. Thank you guys so much for introducing us to the coalition. One question I had is that, Kaden, you mentioned these local residential meetups or residential like groups, maybe in like different regions of the U.S.
Mhm.
Do we have any timeline as to where that sort of thing could roll out? Because you're in Ohio, I'm from Pennsylvania State University, so we're actually relatively close. So I think it would be cool to have a group of the Northeast schools.
Yeah, I guess two things. One is I'll send you my email in the chat, and I'll connect you with the case group and the Northeastern Ohio kind of group, so we can just do that with our clubs locally. And then for the Quantum Coalition rollout, I think Mahir put the link in the chat earlier for what we have as an event calendar. We haven't really developed a full, like, as far as I know, like linking all the geographical events. That might be something we kind of work on throughout the year, and it kind of may come down to who's in charge of it and what you guys want to focus on. But in the short term, send me an email and I can get you connected with the case group and kind of the network we have in the area. All right, yeah, my email's in the chat if anyone needs to email me. And then also we will put a video in. This will be recorded.
I will also say we were looking into this is something I said in chat, but we were looking into having a general kind of Discord where members of clubs who are part of the Quantum Coalition can join and interact with, and we'd be, I think, happy to open it up to other students who may not be involved in a undergraduate club but are still interested in quantum and are a student in quantum.
Yeah, I can chip in on that one too. As of right now, we don't really have a mechanism in place for independent students or non-school recognized members. We want to work on that, and that, as Thomas mentioned, that was kind of the confusion with how we want to do Slack and Discord. We kind of want to have our core group almost like representatives of clubs, so we can kind of steer that way. But we also are like we don't want to close that off. All our events have been open to the communities and like the efforts we want for you to be able to partake in as well. So we're working on that. Updates should come. And right now, we kind of have to set board positions up and new members, and then that could be kind of grouped in with what we're doing. But we have plans to figure that out and definitely kind of follow along. And I guess we could have them fill out the interest form so we can keep that of note, and then we can reach back out.
Well, as long as you're on our mailing list at this point, then you'll receive, anything we do in the future will be communicated. Yeah, the club focus model is how, we think we have the biggest impact and support the most people. So yeah.
Is there a closing or deadline on the interest form?
No, I would say if you want information about the elections at the beginning of September, then you know, probably fill it out by September 1st.
So also for the monthly meetings, does it always need to be the same person, or if they couldn't attend, could someone else from the leadership come in their place?
You could definitely have someone fill in for the place. I think the goal is ideally someone to kind of maintain that knowledge, but everyone's busy. It's a volunteer group, so it's like if you have to rotate around, that's good. We just kind of want a presence and staying in communication. So however that best works is reasonable.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to say something. This is something I say a lot, but it is very true that you get out what you put into it, and like if you put in a lot of time, like it will pay off, and we will be like very grateful. We really benefit from members like who are dedicated to contributing to the Quantum Coalition, even like a little bit, even just staying like active and responding to messages. That's like it's very helpful to have. Um,
Wonderful. Okay, well, we're 5 minutes over time. Kate and Thomas, you think we should wrap up?
Yeah, I guess last call. If anyone has questions, I mean, I'm happy to stay a few more minutes if there's questions, but last call, I suppose. All right,
Yeah,
thanks,
so
Bernard.
you can also find Kaden and my email are both listed on the Quantum Coalition website. So if a question occurs to you after this, feel free to shoot us a quick email.
And then last thing, do we have, I think we kind of we're preparing for this meeting, and then soon we'll send out an email on our mailing list of when we'll have our next meeting to kind of set up for elections. Are we planning for that for next weekend? Or I know it's a tough time. Everyone's kind of getting ready to go back to school, so we're trying to figure out the best timing there. I don't think we have something on the books yet, so I guess look out for your mailing list, and we'll announce when our next meeting and more information is coming there.
All right, thank you.
Of course, thanks everyone
Thanks so
for
much for coming.
We'll be in touch and looking forward to it.
I was just curious, would this next meeting be where we would apply for membership, or would that be a separate process?
You kind of do that with filling out the interest form, and then the next meeting would probably be more information on what's going on. So I guess I don't know if we have necessarily an application process, but I guess our application process is fill out the interest form and let us know you're interested, and then just start showing up to the meetings. I guess, Ben, do you want to comment? Do we have thoughts?
Yeah, there will be a separate application. We just want to make sure that, we want to put that out once things are in swing. We don't want to catch people during the summer. So the interest form is just a way we can make sure that we can get information out to people who are interested. So when that application comes out, we're going to contact all the people on the interest form if we need to see if you're still interested and to see if we need additional information from you.
Okay, because I know that in the interest form we can't specify that we meet the requirements of 3 board members and being recognized by our university and all that. So I just wanted to check. Thank you.
Yep. And yeah, the exact requirements, we kind of like, if you fill out the interest form and you're interested, we'll have a conversation with you and kind of just ask. Maybe at some point we'll have a more detailed application process, but if you're interested, we'll try to find the best way we can to work with you. All right. Well, thanks everyone, and we'll probably see you soon. Excited for the year and excited for all these initiatives. So thanks for coming.
Thanks.